The environment strategy that we have today was approved in July 2001. The foundation for that 2001 strategy is sound, but a lot of changes have taken place. Many of the countries have moved into middle income status and have a new set of problems that they need to focus on. There's a shift in attention certainly to climate change and other global issues that, in addition to poverty environment issues and industrial pollution issues and so on. So the challenge is really, how do we go out there and not have preconceived notions about what the environment strategy should be so that we really do listen to stakeholders?
I think significantly the bank has established itself as a knowledge bank, as a main source of information and capacity for governments and civil society, particularly in the area of environmental governance. In fairness, the World Bank has actually done some really innovative projects and programs in key developing countries. However, I think this track record has also been complicated with a lot of challenges on the ground. And here I would point out examples like the bank's involvement in some very controversial large hydro dam projects. There are also some controversial issues around the choices of specific energy technologies like coal.
In moving forward, we shouldn't forget the link between poverty in local communities and economic development and protection of natural resources. I think that the bank should continue to be attentive and willing to listen and understand the challenges of each country, trying to apply experiences developed elsewhere, but always letting each country establish the pace and of its own transformations.
Like many others, Calvert has had some long-standing concerns about the World Bank, but we've been enormously encouraged by the bank's progress in a number of areas over the last decade. And we're going to need to count on the bank to strike the appropriate balances between respect for biodiversity on the one hand and respect for indigenous peoples' rights and communities on the other. And protecting biodiversity and respecting indigenous peoples' communities should not be a zero-sum game. We need to find ways where we can do both, and the bank can play an instrumental role in doing so.
Well, I think the bank's doing very well in the development agenda, but now we have to stress conservation issue within that development agenda so it is properly understood that the two are together. There is no development without conservation, and there is no conservation without development.
I think that the bank really needs to look at the framework it uses from the economic standpoint of bringing in the externalities, the global public goods that often are not accounted for in economic studies. And so what we'd really like to see is more green accounting in the bank's work, and that would become a regular part of bank evaluations of projects.
At the end of this process, what I would like to have first and foremost is an environment strategy that effectively reflects the interests of our stakeholders, our client countries, the communities in those countries, civil society organizations across the globe, the private sector, and so on. For that to happen, I need to be able to say at the end of the consultation process that there really was a true dialogue.